I did cross country in World of Warcraft. I had characters that ran.
I cannot drink all the Dr. Peppers I want.
What's going on, everyone? I'm Travis Brown, senior Texas A&M sports writer here at KBTX. I'm alongside the crew. I'm not going to call it the A-team because we have everybody's the A-team.
The seniors,
but it is the seniors. It is not the juniors.
Senior citizens.
We are the red shirt seniors. We're kind of the COVID fifth years.
Yeah,
if you would. That's Chief Meteorologist Max Crawford.
Yes,
got it right. First time.
You did.
That's sports director Tyler Shaw.
Even with us, like, kind of.
I'm on a roll.
Yeah.
So
done this long enough.
This is going to be a good podcast.
I agree.
Maxwell, why is it cold again?
Because it is February, Travis.
Oh, right. That makes sense.
Because baseball opening day.
Right.
It always has to
I'm
get
telling
cold.
you, man. And John Wilson, I will give him another shout out because he's the one who taught me the lore of this. Is like, it is within 3 or 4 days of opening day, there's always some really funky weather. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's going to be chilly. It might be a little sprinkly tomorrow, by the way. I hate to tell you all that. Saturday, I think should be good, especially by the mid innings. And Sunday will be dry, but it will be brisk out there. So, and baseball is so much fun when you talk about the weather too, because it experiences like the lowest of the lows and the highest of the highs, because you start in February, and a lot of times, man, especially if we're like hosting a super regional, it gets hotter than I'll get out.
I always tell myself whenever I'm thinking about complaining about how cold it is covering a February baseball game, I think just appreciate it now,
right?
Because you're going to be sweating like no other in like 2 months,
and half your face is going to be sunburnt.
Yes,
yeah.
I'll take a little chili over how hot it gets.
I have enjoyed the cool temperatures a little bit because I've gotten back into the art of jogging, and
Soft
got
J.
some nice some hocus.
Yes,
getting a little run in every now and then.
That's wonderful, Travis.
We talked a little bit before. You're not much of a runner.
Well, I'm probably more than I was a big runner.
I mean, probably more than both of us combined in your past life.
Yes,
but you're not one to get out and partake in a nice jog every now and then.
Oh yeah, every now and then. But I wouldn't call myself a daily runner. No.
You've done marathons, right?
I have, actually. Yeah, I've done 2 fulls and like 10 halves, but I haven't actually run more than a mile in almost 6 months now because I've had some plantar fasciitis issues. And I'm trying to.
Isn't that what the Hocus are for?
Yeah, I mean that it can certainly alleviate it. I don't know that it's a cure. One of the best ways to fix that is to lose weight, and so. But the problem with that is, for me, the easiest way to lose weight is to go out and jog. And so I've been trying different methods to lose some pounds so then I can then go back out to running again.
The problem with that for me is I like chicken fingers.
Yeah, and one of the problems is if you start running very regularly, you're going to get more hungry. It's so it's difficult because
that is true.
If there is, you talk about calorie deficit and all that stuff, but like if there is one activity that can actually really screw with your ability to like lose weight and lose fat, it's actually running, because your body immediately like wants to resupply itself, and so it can make you that much more hungry. And if you're not careful, you will not lose a pound because your body is telling you to take back in all the stuff that you just burned off.
I still don't understand. Like, you've done how many marathons?
Just 2 full ones.
2 full ones. How many halves?
About 10.
10.
Yeah, like a dozen.
My wife is going to do the Cowtown half here in a little bit. I can't wrap. I played soccer. Like, my cardio growing up was always sports. Like, I was chasing a ball. I was playing soccer. I was playing baseball, basketball, everything. I still don't like the idea of just like it messes with my head when I get up there running and my legs start burning, and it's like you can just stop now.
Right,
nothing is keeping you running right now except the little interval thing you have on your watch.
Well, and Tyler, you didn't have a watch. Like, I'm sure you weren't allowed to listen to music at cross country meets, were you?
Well, not during the actual race. No.
Right.
No.
So when
it's
you're
a
like
pregame hype,
conditioning
sure,
and stuff,
music,
yeah.
But yeah, well, and that's why the cross country motto is "Our sport is your sport's punishment."
Yeah.
I mean, it's exactly what it is. You
Right.
know? You get in trouble on the football field.
You start running.
You have to run. Well, cross country, time to play. Well, we're gonna run. That's our sport. It's
Yeah, I don't like running. I like it. My brain tells me to stop.
Yeah.
I've done like the intervals. It's fine. But I've always kept in shape by chasing a ball on a field somewhere or on a court somewhere.
Yeah.
And this is just not. It's not fun. I got back in yesterday. My dogs were barking.
Mm-hmm.
Legs were sore.
Yeah.
Don't like it.
Hurt.
I don't like it.
Take care of your feet. Take care of your legs. Take care of your hips. Find a good podcast
those don't
or
lie.
listen to some albums.
See, my first one, I went out and because we were in Vegas for the Vegas Bowl. My the wife and I and some other people, we went to a nice EDM concert.
Heck yeah, dude.
And the Sphere. We're not big EDM people, but we wanted to see the Sphere.
Right.
And I decided, you know what, like this artist we saw, that would be a good running music.
Yeah.
But except that the beats per minute were way too high, and I was like just flying.
That's the problem you run into.
Podcasts are a little bit better.
Interesting. Speaking of the Sphere, the Backstreet Boys are going to be playing in the Sphere.
That's insane.
And I'm going to have to find a way to get tickets. That's awesome.
Your musical tastes lie about within the range of like 2004 to 2008. Would you say?
Isn't that most people the era when you were growing up and
Backstreet
always...
Boys were kind of on their way out by that point too.
Yeah,
I think.
I feel like mine like ranges like end of college through my first 3 years out of college is where I would. My wife makes fun that all of the music I listen to is squarely from the year 2012.
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of 2012 music. 2012 was
teens.
good.
Yeah, the early teens.
Good year for music.
LMFAO.
Yeah.
I don't think Tyler's ever been more jealous of me than when I went to that Boys Like Girls and oh my gosh, who's the headliner?
Was it All American Rejects? Was
no, it was what on earth? I literally just saw him in September. Yeah, but that was a different one. Oh my gosh, dude!
It was one in Oklahoma.
No, Chicago.
It's one person.
Chicago.
It's one person, but it's a name. Dashboard Confessional.
Yeah.
I can't believe I just blanked on that because he was awesome. But
Wasn't
anyway,
Dashboard the one that you're like, I don't really care about that?
yeah. And then I came away from
it's
it
great.
like that
Dashboard
was
is
amazing.
great.
He was so good live. Anyway,
did you feel vindicated?
I sure did.
Okay,
absolutely, in every way.
There's some vindication to be had from the A&M baseball team this year.
Yes,
there is. The way that their season ended last year,
unfinished business
in the finals of the College World Series, losing to Tennessee, and they bring back a lot of guys. They portaled a lot of guys. Tyler, what's your vibes? What's your preseason vibes for this A&M baseball team?
So they can say, and when we talked to them today, and they'll say that oh, it's not really a motivation the way season ended. It's a new team, but there are a lot of guys from that team that are going to remember that. And sure, maybe it's early in the season right now, but as the season progresses and as they get closer to that goal of making the College World Series, they're going to remember that feeling. They're going to remember getting so close, without crossing that finish line, without getting that championship. So I think that is what is on their mind, is getting back there. Preseason number one for a reason. It's baseball. There's going to be ups and downs this season. They're going to drop some games that they shouldn't. But right now, here at the start, I don't know. You look at that lineup, even with Caden Sorrell out.
How long is that going to be a thing? Do we know?
No, just indefinitely is what we know for right now. For foreseeable future, I guess.
Ouch. Well,
but with how much depth they have, I think they can afford it.
Yeah.
Max,
absolutely.
what's the vibes?
The vibes are very high with baseball, and not to bring running back into this, but I mean it's a marathon. And echoing Tyler once again, they'll lose some games that they shouldn't, and there are plenty of ups and downs to battle through in a season, and so it's hard to talk motivation in a sport like baseball because it's just such a grind and it's such a long season. And so complacency, I'm worried about that, but I also feel like the leadership on the team is so good, and it's the right combination of returning staffers and things like that. Of course, there's some head coaching inexperience, but there's not coaching inexperience. And I'm not going to act like I know what it's like to manage a baseball team, but I do think that Early has the stuff to win a national championship in his first year as a head coach. And that's largely because of the people that we brought back and brought into the fold, too.
I don't think you could be in a better situation yet one as a head coach.
Not at all.
In
fact, he might not have a more talented roster than what he's going to have in his first year. I'd love to challenge that.
Right.
To be a baseball manager and to be a college baseball manager at that, it is so much about managing personnel, managing people, more so than maybe any other sport except maybe football, but even then
managing head cases and
but you in baseball you have your pitching coach, your hitting coach, your guys who are going to be out on the field kind of doing the day-to-day. And as a baseball coach, manager, head coach, it's more of that building the relationships, knowing the psychology of your team. And I think that's why Michael Early has been a guy who could be tapped to do this so early in his career, is because that was like the biggest thing that his players said when they wanted him back, is that he was so fine-tuned to the details of their personalities and built relationships so easily that I think that carries over into head coaching. I mean, even to the point where the thing that most of his players talked about, what they liked about him as a hitting coach, is that he personalized those workouts for those guys, knowing, like, okay, they're a little deficient in this part of the mechanics of the swing, so you need to do this drill XYZ this day before you go hit live in the cage or on the field. And everything was more personalized and tailored, instead of just, hey, the whole team's going to go do this for hitting or do this drill. It was everybody had their individual assignments, kind of like going into a weight room and getting your personalized lift schedule. So I think that's what plays most to him. And then he has Jason Kelly, who was a head coach at Washington, has that experience. From all indications, he's going to be the guy that goes and takes the ball from pitchers when they make pitching changes.
Right.
And I think that's a nice tip of the hat to a guy who was a head coach and left a head coaching position to go back to being an assistant coach in that regard. But you're right. There is a lot of coaching experience in that coach's locker room.
And this may be redundant to what you just said, but it seems like Early is really trying to strike the right balance between being a vibes guy and an analytics guy. Like the perfect balance of like knowing what's going on in his players' heads, but also catering things specifically to him and numbers and all that.
I'm interested to see how the bullpen does. That's the one thing for me. I mean, I think when you have Prager and Lampkin, and now you're gonna, we'll see Miles Patton. I mean, that starting rotation, seems, pretty stout. I think a lot of how far this team goes and what they do is how deep that bullpen is.
Would we assume that Stewart is going to be one of the main guys out of the pen in relief?
You would think.
I would think so.
Yeah, I would think so. He did some great stuff in the postseason last year, and you would hope that kind of carries over into this year.
And Sadeo is for sure a scratch for the season, right?
Correct.
Yeah, that's disappointing
for sure.
But
absolutely.
So if you had someone like Sadeo to go along with what you already have,
then you'd be number one plus.
Right. Yeah, 1A.
Yeah.
There's no question.
Let's go ahead and look. I'll pull up right here on the screen for those of you watching. Here is kind of a predicted baseball lineup for A&M with the defense and the starting rotation. I think that, of course, the guys who you would imagine were going to be in there, Gavin Grahovec at third base, Caden Kent at shortstop, Jace Laviolette in center field, Hayden Schott at DH. Those are the expected returners in the field. And then on the screen here, I put the team for a guy who's a transfer, where they are probably going to slot in. It's either going to be Galloway or Harrison, probably at catcher. Galloway, the USC transfer. And then Wyatt Hensler, who was the just knocked the cover off the ball at Penn the last year and was committed to come to A&M midway through the season last year. He'll slot in at second base. You would think Gavin Cash, the Texas Tech transfer, will probably be out in left field. He hit 300 with 15 home runs last year. And then the real interesting one is we mentioned Caden Sorrell is going to be out for some time with, we think, a leg injury. Terrence Keel, the freshman, is going to slot in at right field. He really stood out in that scrimmage the other night. He had a routine single into the outfield that he was able to stretch into two. Jace Laviolette said he's not sure who's fast between the two of them, but it's probably going to be pretty close. So he's really going to have an effect there. And then, of course, Hayden Schott, who hit .334 last year with 8 home runs, will most likely be your DH. Those are the guys who return. From those returning guys, who's somebody that kind of sticks out to you?
Well, I will say, first off, shout out Blake Bindrup, who I think, we'll see how much he's progressed, but it seems like he's taken kind of that next step to try and crack the rotation. Hometown kid that gets to play. But yeah, other than Terrence Keel, that freshman, that you're saying that the guy that sticks out to me, I think it might be, I don't know if understated how much it's going to mean bringing Hayden Schott back. We already talked about him being in the 12th man and kind of a glue guy for this team. But to have that kind of experience, back for another year on this team, I think it's going to be huge.
Max, who gets your antennas twirling on this one the most from the returners?
Probably Jace and Hayden. And then you think, well, there's Caden Kent, and then there's Grahovac, and Hensler was always intriguing, and I remember Gavin Cash being a very intriguing pickup too. But I think to me, I'm just excited to see what Jace does. I know he's got the ability to just absolutely smash the ball, which like more than half of the dudes on that list do. But Jace, Hayden's the glue guy, and Jace is the watch me do it type of leader. And I'm very, very excited to see what kind of stuff they could do. And you would hope that Gavin and Caden will continue to take steps up, from their lower classmen years now, like actually being some seasoned guys on the team. But yeah. Very, very long way to just say Jace is the one.
For me, I think it's Caden, because Caden was the guy that couldn't crack into the lineup for most of the season last year, and then was maybe one of the heroes of the postseason.
Absolutely.
Last year for what he was able to do after Braden Montgomery got hurt, and with moving some guys around, he became a regular starter through pretty much just Omaha. And so he'll be a regular guy. He played mostly second when he was in the lineup last year. He'll be moving over to shortstop, which I think is a little bit more of his natural position. How much is he going to be able to carry that momentum over from what he did at the end of the season and prove if that's the player he's going to be moving forward?
That bat flip on that Grand Slam was maybe, I don't know, top 3 or 4 Aggie baseball moments for me. Maybe top 10 Aggie sports moments for me. It was amazing. But
the pop that Olsen Field helped.
And how many shots of his dad are we going to see?
Just
completely.
Did you know it's Jeff Kent's son?
Jeff Kent will be there.
Yeah, unfazed in the lineup. For me, when you look at the guys who are either new or weren't in the lineup last year, you mentioned Blake Bindrup.
Yeah.
He's one that is really intriguing. That first base and catcher position battles is going to be interesting, because I don't think they're quite settled on what they want to do there. Bergevin has the pop. He had a lot of home runs at Fairfield last year, but apparently Blake Bindrup, from the people I've talked to, has torn it up during fall and spring.
That's a good
as far as
name.
Power numbers. Yeah,
Blake Bindrup.
And he's a tall dude who can just put a charge in the ball. But for me, I former catcher, I always want to see what the catchers can do. It's something I don't know a whole lot about those, so it'll be interesting to see. Of course, I asked Mike Early today kind of what is his factors he looks in when he selects a catcher, and it's receiving and managing the pitching staff is always first. How you literally catch the ball, and then how do you work with the pitching staff? The guy that the pitchers like the best a lot of times will be the guy that'll get the nod, and then secondary is if they can hit the ball a little bit. And from both these numbers, it's shown that from last year that both of these guys could swing the bat a little bit.
And they've got 3 lefties as your starters, so I don't know, that might have something to play too with the catcher. How are they doing with those starters?
Sure. The one in looking at the lineup, the rotation, excuse me. They went with 3 lefties twice last year. it wasn't necessarily what Jim Schlossnagle preferred. He liked having he liked having a sandwich.
Right.
So either lefty, righty, lefty, or righty, lefty, righty. And they had the series against, I believe it was Ole Miss, like second to last. They went Lampkin, Prager, and Sadeo, and that was the case early in the season. I believe like the second series of the season. But in between there, they had Tanner Jones mixed in there as the righty. That kind of split that. Interesting, a lot of coaches like to have a little bit of mix in their rotation and might not necessarily put the third best left-hander in there in favor of having a righty to flip the lineup a little bit. But I do think that the bullpen is going to be a little more right-handed heavy, so then you get that in-game switch between lefty and righty.
Yeah.
The other one too, that when you look at all of this is Gavin Cash. That's one that we asked Justin Lampkin today, who is the guy that he was the most scared to face of the new guys, was Gavin Cash from Texas Tech, which is surprising because I thought the answer would be Wyatt Hensler with what he was able to do. But yeah, Max, any of the newcomers stick out to you as well?
Well, probably those two. I love that we did get some experience in the portal from Miles Patton, but Gavin Cash, I remember when I found out that we were able to pick him up out of the portal, I remember being like, oh, that's nice. That's really nice. I also was kind of like, well, where are we going to put him? Because we have plenty of outfielders and hitters, but it seems pretty clear that he's going to be a solid contributor right from the get-go. So I think that's the dude. And you picked him up from a good baseball school too. Not that Penn is a bad baseball school, but they know how to play baseball in West Texas. So
Penn is where one Hayden Shaw came from as well.
The Penn to A&M pipeline is strong.
I love that. Absolutely.
So, looking at some of the bullpen options, Troy Wansing is back from injury. He's a left-hander. Weston Moss, right-handed pitcher, was able to do some things last year. Clayton Freshcorn, what a great A&M pitching name.
Yeah.
Right-handed pitcher transferring. He'll be able to probably produce some. Caden Wilson, the left-handed pitcher, he might be actually an option for him or Moss for that
kind of
Tuesday
midweek
starter.
Yeah.
The midweek guy. Brad Rudis,
local boy,
veteran,
Madisonville guy.
Has been used in early in his
he's
career.
Been here forever.
He has.
Yeah.
Early in his career, he was used as the setup guy before what's his name?
Closer.
The closer
Moo?
from
Bryce Miller?
No, it was the first Omaha trip.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I can't remember his name now.
Yeah, I can't either.
You can look it up, and then we'll come back to it. Josh Stewart, like you mentioned, right-handed pitcher. Ty Baker in there. Shane Sadeo is out. Luke Jackson got some work last year. Rylan Hill, the local kid from Bryan, left-handed pitcher. We'll see if he gets any work in there. The other one that I want to mention from a fielding standpoint, you got Marco Jones, who is the two-way football baseball commit to A&M, going to play edge for the A&M football team, but was also out there during that scrimmage. Big kid, play outfield.
So would this have been his spring semester of his senior year? Did he?
Yes.
So he was an early enrollee, and he's
Jacob
already.
Palish, is that who you're?
Jacob
thinking of?
Palish.
Yeah,
I don't know why I forgot
I was thinking
that name.
Oshebek, but that was last.
You're right. Jacob Palish was the closer.
Yeah.
Rudis set Palish up, and then last year Rudis was used a couple times as an opener. Getting that first run through the lineup, and then bringing in, I believe, Lampkin a lot of times behind him. So he's versatile. He could even maybe slot into that midweek role, but I would think they might need to get him out of the bullpen. So like you said with the bullpen, a coach always has his go-to guy. Evan Oschenbeck, he was kind of in that closing role, but there's always that guy, whether it was Shane Sadeo some last year, that is usually the first guy out of the pen before you get to the setup guy and the closer.
Well,
who that guy is going to be is going to be important.
Exactly. Think about how important Oschenbeck was to that success last season. That's why I'm just curious. Is there going to be a guy that steps up to that kind of level?
And I don't think, no, because Evan Oschenbeck was,
that's going to be really
and
hard
having
to
that
do.
guy had that many 3-inning saves.
Yeah,
you don't see that necessarily in college baseball all that until you maybe get to the postseason.
Right.
And so I think they'll probably have a little bit more of a traditional end of the bullpen look, but who those guys are, and that you can say it's going to be this guy or this guy, and sometimes it does work out, like with Evan Oschenbecker or something, or Jacob Palish, that he was pretty much the guy from the start, and they finished the season with him at the end of the bullpen as the closer. But sometimes it goes through, and you have to see a couple series to get a good feel for us as the spectators, to get a good feel, but also the coaching staff to get a good feel of who is the best go-to arms in those situations. So that's, A&M, they start off with Elon, the alma mater of one Jim Schlossnagle, which is
who would have thought?
A little awkward. But as most of these seasons go, probably won't get to see a whole lot of who this team really is until they get down to Houston for the Shriners. Well, it's not the Shriners Classic anymore. The Astros College Classic. It's down at, and what is the stadium called now? It's not
Minute Maid.
Something.
It's not the Juice Box anymore.
Yeah.
Isn't there, there's Oxy in there maybe?
I'll still call it. I'll
It's
Minute Maid.
It's Minute Maid Park.
So we'll figure it out.
We'll probably revisit the baseball team a little bit once that gets around the corner. We can get a little bit better picture of this team.
Sorry about Bregman, Astros fans. Stinks. Sorry.
So, sorry, sure.
Dang.
Yeah.
But I guess if you're a Red Sox fan, it's pretty good.
I know a couple Red Sox fans actually who are
I do
pretty
too.
happy about it.
Real quick, let's touch on the number 8 team in the nation, the Aggie men's basketball.
What
team.
did we say? Softball's number 5.
Softball's
Baseball's
5.
number
Baseball's
1. Basketball's number 8.
Both track teams are ranked.
I am terrified. I'm terrified
of the spring, just the spring in
of
general.
the expectations.
tennis
Severe weather and high
number 2.
rankings.
Severe weather and high rankings. That should be your individual podcast.
Yeah, severe
weather and high rankings, and why I'm anxious.
Out Aggie Sports Podcast by Max Crawford. Y'all get more than enough of that on this.
What do we think about? A&M men's basketball just seems like their formula is not showing up in the first half and doing really great in the second half.
Which I don't. I think we probably could pull off that formula against the Hogs and come up with a good win. But I do think I would feel a lot better if we put together 2 good halves against them, because I don't think they're on a crazy remarkable tear or anything, but they do look like they're starting to figure it out a little bit.
Arkansas, yeah. Well, you always kind of got to be weary of a Coach Cal team.
Sure,
too.
of course.
But yeah, it's one of those things that, of course, obviously you want to see 2 good halves. But I don't know, with the way A&M's offense is, it almost seems like they're just trying to figure out how they want to attack. They're trying to feel it out in the first half almost, and obviously against Georgia it didn't matter how the first half went, because that was as dominant of a half as I've ever seen in the second.
Crazy.
And really, it was the defense that was dominant in the second half. Because what was it, 14 minutes without a field goal?
I've never.
for Georgia?
I don't think I've ever seen that.
I haven't.
Only to be outdone by the Thunder, I think, last night against Miami.
They went on a 24-0 run. So
we had a 22-0 run, which again, that's remarkable.
And in that 22-0 run, the most points were from Solomon Washington, which might be one of my favorite stories of the season. Because if you watch most of any of the A&M team play, but especially Solomon Washington, he is constantly talking
he's
to everybody. Yeah. He's chirping with everybody. And I saw it. He came down towards the little corner where we're sitting in the little print writing media corner, and he airballed a 3, and the Georgia bench was laughing and jawing at him because he was right in front of him, and he turned and had something to say. And then pretty much right after that is when A&M's defensive streak started, and then he goes wild. He hits a 3-pointer in the span of like 3 possessions, hits a 3-pointer, makes a transition dunk, and then gets a block on the other end.
Sequence was probably the most impressive sequence of Solomon Washington that I've seen before. That was, and I think that's what can give you hope and positivity as an A&M fan, is if they play that well defensively and they were that dominant, and Wake Taylor and Zurich Phelps Phelps a little bit towards the end, but weren't really much of a factor in this game offensively.
Yeah.
And you know that those are your go-to guards and guys that can take over games. So you throw that factor into it.
right. If
sky is the limit.
If you've got Payne and Solomon doing their thing,
right? If everything comes together at the same time, that's
almost unstoppable. Dare I say?
Well,
yeah, but really, I feel like if you get 2 of those 4 between Payne, Solomon, Washington, Phelps, and Wade, who is having a good night, I still like our chances.
You go back just maybe 2 years ago, and A&M is like, who is their scorer beyond Wade Taylor?
Yeah, it's been like that.
Who is going to be a contributor to the offense beyond Wade Taylor?
Yeah.
Now they're so deep that they basically have a whole set that they can run Andy Garcia at the point.
Yeah.
And open up everybody else to be moving to get open for the shot, which is just wild. And it's also really awesome to watch Anderson Garcia pass the ball because he's one of the best passers on the team. He's one of the best big passers that I've ever seen. And the way Solo put it, like it kind of the risks he's willing to take with some of those passes is higher than just about anybody else on the team, but he doesn't turn the ball over.
Well,
like he connects on those passes.
I think that is the best team basketball that A&M has when you're having the offense run through Anderson Garcia because of the playmaking, his playmaking ability and passing. You don't have as much ISO ball going on because individually they don't have a whole, because before it was, who else besides Wade Taylor? Because Wade Taylor was the best individual basketball player that can play the ISO. Other than that, you didn't have those guys. But it's just the way, the experience and the continuity and the depth of this team kind of makes up for that.
Yeah, it was Wade, and you were hoping that Q could manufacture something or
some steals and some transition buckets.
Or boots, obviously. And then, maybe towards the end of last season especially, maybe Manny could show you a little something, which I still think he's capable of doing. But now it's just man, it seems like everybody maybe not stepping up at the exact same time, but every game where we've ended up winning, it's because there's Henry Coleman. Oh, there's Andy Garcia. Oh, there's Solomon Washington.
But saying that it's still not a great shooting team, so that's the so when everything's clicking and the sky's the limit. But if they get into a cold slump and shooting stretch like they did in the first half, that can be the downfall.
It is team. There is it's so heavily used a meme that it's just the simplest timeline, and it's oh boy, can't wait to watch my favorite team play basketball again, and then profanity, and then nice, we won. That is A&M basketball under Buzz Williams,
and it's just, to the stats to back it up. 285th in effective field goal percentage at 48.3%, and yet they have the 36th best offense in the country.
That's insane.
Because of
boards,
offensive rebounds, second chance points. As of late, free throws.
Yeah, we need to say whatever that. We need a prayer circle about free throws that continues,
and the fact that they, more so than in some of the years past, they're able to get a few of those steals and transition buckets.
Yeah.
And play a little bit faster than they have, especially last year.
Their defense is better. Mm-hmm. It's overall better, and it's the defense turning into offense. Mm-hmm. That's why their offense has gotten better. I think it's just because, their defense is
stifling. They don't have just these great world-class shooters on the team all of a sudden, and wow, their offense is good.
I'm going to go and say it. I know they've used it a little bit more because they played some teams that played small. I think their defense is better without the 3-guard set, because they've started with Manny, Wade, and Zurich all in the starting lineup with Pharrell and Henry in the post. I would prefer to have Manny out and have Solo or Andy in there. That's when they're best defensively, and they're playing their best ball. I think Manny is good. I think he has his moments where he needs to be in the game, but the 3 ball handling guards at the same time, I think it gives up too much defensively.
Well, a lot of it's matchups. Georgia, you couldn't really do that because of how big those forwards were, and you needed to throw that in there. But you're going to come across teams where that 3-guard set, you might need to lean on it. So it's just, it's one of those things. I get what you're saying, but it's one of those things. Matchups are just. It depends on it. Yeah, Georgia, though, with the way they're built and their forwards, you definitely couldn't afford having too many guards out there.
So here's the thing to look at. We'll kind of take the heat check for the remaining 6 games of the season. A&M is 2 games back of the SEC conference lead. The 2 teams, Alabama and Auburn, are tied for first right now, and they play each other.
Yeah, Saturday.
This weekend.
Be a
the
game.
First time Auburn and Alabama have played as a number 1 and a number 2 seed in either basketball or football. They've never played as a 1 or 2,
which is wild.
Not seed, but ranking in football. So basketball is the first time that matchup is going to happen. So that's going to eliminate that tie. And A&M still has Auburn and Florida to play, who are ahead of them. They still have everything to play for. Not to mention, I looked up the highest ranking a Buzz Williams team has ever gotten is 3. Or seeding in the NCAA tournament is 3. So some
with Virginia
places
Tech, or was
Virginia,
that,
it was with Marquette.
Yeah, Marquette.
He did it twice, and it'll be interesting to see if A&M can continue. They're projected right there at that 2-3 line right now. I still don't believe there is any way A&M gets into a 1 seed situation.
Yeah, unless they.
We just don't lose.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. I mean, if you won out,
yeah,
sure, I think you're a 1 seed.
With 5, a 1 seed with 5 losses, which would be pretty interesting. Now you'd be handing Auburn and Tennessee another loss,
and Florida
ahead of them.
Because right now your ones are Alabama, Arkansas, Duke, and Florida. I think are the projected ones.
No, you say Arkansas,
Alabama, Tennessee,
Alabama, Auburn, Duke,
Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Over Florida.
Yep, Florida. If you look at bracket matrix, which does an average of all the different projected, Auburn, Duke, Alabama, Tennessee on the 1 line, Florida, Houston, Purdue, Texas A&M on the 2 line, and then Iowa State, Arizona, Wisconsin, Kansas on the 3 line. So
there's a really good shot. They're a 2 seed.
Right.
I'm telling you. I think you win the rest of your home games minus either that Auburn or Tennessee. I think you have to win one of those. And then, honestly, could you lose those away games against State and Florida? And as long as you beat LSU away, I think we could lock up a 2.
I was looking at the way that the brackets kind of sort out, and here's the interesting thing. And probably with how this is all kind of shaping up, in 3 of the 4 regions, you're going to have a situation where if you are a 3 or a 4 seed, you're probably going to get an SEC team in the second round. You're probably going to get a Mississippi, a Missouri, a Mississippi State there in the second round. And then if you're not getting one of those, you're probably getting maybe a Connecticut, a Marquette. It's just I kind of said, if A&M can get in a situation where they get away from that and they don't play 2 SEC teams in the first 2 rounds, it might be like swinging with a donut a little bit, because the SEC is just that stacked this year, and they've played so hard this year that it might be a decently easy walk into the Sweet 16, comparatively speaking. But with how many SEC teams are looking to get in the tournament and how many are looking to get in at high seeds, that it's going to be hard to avoid.
There's about 9 or 10 locks right now to make the tournament, and then you have 3 more bubble teams. So it's wild.
So let's take the instant poll. Okay. As of now, if the season ended now, what seed do you think A&M is going in as?
The season ended now. I think they're a 2 seed.
There's BAS afoot, and there's the way the selections have gone the past couple of years afoot, and so I say 3.
Take what they should be and drop them to.
Yeah.
Well, I don't. I'm not ready to say 4, but I would say probably solidly 3.
I think with where they are now, a 3 seed is probably about right.
Yeah, but I think if we surprise,
I don't think you'd be up in arms for a 3 seed.
No, I don't think so. Yeah. I don't think so. I think I'd be a little ticked with a 4, but a 3, I'd say okay.
Which is funny because 4 was basically where they were at 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Right.
And it seemed like that, anything before it was anything below a 5 or below was probably great. So it's just interesting to see how things seem to sort out with that.
I think if we somehow win 2 of the 3 left of Auburn, Tennessee, and Florida. If we win 2 of those 3 and we are a 3 seed after that, I think I'll be a little ticked.
Yeah, they probably need to be a 2
But I think if we just
point.
win 1 of the 3 or we lose all of them, I think a 3 seed I'd almost be grateful for at that point. The variability.
Well, that all starts with Arkansas this Saturday at 11. We'll be interested to see, too, how what the crowd situation looks like. It was a little
I think it'll be
sparse.
good.
I'm gonna guess
I think
better
it'll be
than Tuesday.
Tuesday was not good.
No.
But it's a Saturday early game.
It's going to be
Everybody
good.
usually likes to come out and see Arkansas play A&M, so that'll be a little bit better. But that's where this journey takes them next, and our journey will take us out of this really hot room right now and to the next podcast next week. So be sure to check KBTX.com for everything we have previewing the baseball season and looking ahead to basketball and softball and women's basketball and track and
y'all.
everything that's going on this weekend. Check out these 2 guys on the broadcast at 5, 6, and 10. And so for Tyler Shaw, Max Crawford, I'm Travis Brown. This is the Aggie Game Day Extra podcast. We'll see you next week.